WGPR Detroit HD2.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
FM 88.1 WHPR, Highland Park.
WVIE 107.3 FM Charlotte, Amalia, Virgin Islands.
The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
Hello, welcome to Safeguard Democracy. My name is Charlene Turner Johnson, and I will be your host for the next 30 minutes as we talk to our guest, Hester Wheeler, Michigan's Assistant Secretary of State. We're going to be talking about safeguarding the democracy in the state of Michigan, in particular in Highland Park and Detroit. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about how we got to this show, and then we're going to bring Hester on to talk about what Michigan is doing to safeguard our voting rights and all of the attacks that are coming up against our voting rights in Michigan. I'm based here in Highland Park, and I'm representing BASE, which is a nonprofit organization. BASE stands for Building Assets to Strengthen Society. We have been working in Highland Park since 2007 out of our signature location, Park Place, which is on Woodward. At Park Place, we're doing a lot of work with helping entrepreneurs start their businesses. We're working with young people around my sister's keeper and my brother's keeper. And we're working with residents to organize and do all kinds of community service here in Highland Park. We were asked by DDON, which is a network of nonprofit organizations in Detroit and other Michigan cities of color. DDON asked us to join the network to represent Highland Park as we're working on issues of democracy. DDON stands for Detroit Democracy Action Working Network. So we're working, we're not playing, we're working because there's been an attack against our democracy in this country. We've been experiencing these tremendous attacks, particularly after January the 6th when we saw that resurrection in our capital. And we know that there are people who are trying to undermine democracy and particularly trying to undermine the vote, the voice of people of color. So through DDON, we're working with other cities around Michigan, cities where there's a majority population of people of color to protect our democracy. And here in Highland Park, we've been doing a couple of things. Everyone in Highland Park should have received one of these flyers at their door, which talks about safeguard democracy and which invited people to get involved in small groups and conduct various initiatives to be advocates, to do educational initiatives about democracy. And so already we have had a wonderful program that two of our Highland Park residents did at WHPR. Kimberly and Renee did a wonderful program which is showing, it's called All Votes Matter, all about voting. And we have a program coming up this Saturday, October 23rd at 1 o'clock at Faith Tabernacle Church, which will be talking about how city government works, because so many of us really don't understand how our city government works. Unfortunately, civics is not being taught in our schools, and so our young people, many of them are not really aware of what the word democracy means. So we're excited that we're able to bring this program to you for the next 30 minutes. We'll be talking to Hester Wheeler. Hester is Michigan's Assistant Secretary of State, He is a gentleman that I have known for many, many years. His work in the community is outstanding as an activist, as a promoter of human rights, as a promoter of rights for people of color. And we're just so excited to have him to come along and share a conversation with us. I've been here in Highland Park since 1954, and I'm committed along with our group of volunteers, our founder, mayor, former mayor, DeAndre Wyndham, and all of our volunteers who are working together in Highland Park. We are committed to the city. We're committed to the people. We love this place, and we just want to see all of our residents, as many as possible, voting and involved in our civic and civil rights. So with that, I want to introduce our guest. I want to have him introduce himself. Hester Wheeler, Michigan's Assistant Secretary of State. Hester, so good to see you. Tell us a little bit about how you got to this very important position and what you're doing to help us here in Highland Park in Detroit.
First of all, let me say good morning to you, Charlene Turner Johnson. What a pleasure. You just keep on keeping on. You have been at this for decades now. Ever since I've had the pleasure to work with you and meet you, you have been helping people. And I do believe that service is the price we pay for the space we occupy.
Amen. Amen.
And so I applaud all of your efforts, and every sociologist, every social problems expert, every political strategist will tell you that every effort matters. It doesn't matter if you're working with 4 people or 400 or 4,000, every effort matters. So I applaud you and thank you for inviting me. And yes, I had the unique opportunity to serve as Assistant Secretary of State for Michigan. So we've been moving around the state, talking to the Charlene Turner Johnsons of Michigan, people who live their commitment on the front line, helping people be educated and encouraging people to get engaged. And guess what? Why do you think there's so much voter suppression? Why do you think there are so many lies being told about voter fraud? If there's one reason, it is because your vote matters.
That's right.
Your vote matters. And as Secretary of State, we have 2 primary responsibilities. Obviously, all things driver's license. We're the chief driving officer for the state of Michigan, but we're also the chief elections officer. And Jocelyn Benson was elected November 2018. She asked if I would join her team as Assistant Secretary of State. She was always very involved in all of my civil rights and social justice days. I had the unique opportunity to serve as executive director with the NAACP Detroit branch from 1999 through 2011. So when Jocelyn Benson got to town, she and I wound up on the same panels. We wound up involved with many community forums. So we were able to build a relationship, and she is committed to the same things that Charlene Turner Johnson and Hester Wheeler is committed to, and that's rights and equal rights and the protection of democracy. So I am happy to be in this moment. I'm here to say a couple things. If you don't hear anything else that I say, Charlene Turner Johnson, you don't have power if you don't use it.
That's right.
Your vote is your power. So I'm
right.
encouraging Parkers and Detroiters. Let me give you a real simple scenario why Michigan is so important. 30% of all registered African-American voters live in 9 states. And all 9 of those states are battleground states. Includes Ohio, Kentucky, North Carolina, Georgia, and guess where? Michigan. Part of the reason Michigan is the target of all this voter suppression legislation, the Michigan legislature introduced 39 bills that changes the administration of the elections. It changes identification requirements. It changes if or not we can use drop boxes. It changes many of the rules that made last year's election so successful. No excuse absentee voting, same day voter registration. Those are new voting rights that the citizens of Michigan sent to Lansing with us in November of 2018. Remember proposals 2 and proposal 3 that gave us redistricting and no excuse absentee voting, same day voter registration. So we went to work. Jocelyn Benson, Hester Wheeler, and so many, the Charlene Johnsons of the world, we went to work encouraging our people to take advantage. Vote from home, vote from the convenience of your living room. Take your time, read the ballot. We had COVID-19 going on. We had Black Lives Matter protests and demonstrations in all 50 states plus 45 other countries around the world. We had energy in the streets. Our young people helped us move from protest to power, because what you saw in the streets translated into power on election day. So I'm saying 30% of registered African Americans live in 9 states. What happened here in Michigan? This state is pretty divided among so-called progressives and conservatives. But when they really wanted to see who would win Michigan, everybody went where? All eyes came where? To Detroit.
Right.
250,000 Detroiters went to the poll. Mr. Biden and Ms. Harris won Michigan by 154,000 votes. I am saying the margin of victory came out of Detroit. It was the black vote. African American voters saved this American democracy. Same thing in Georgia. Georgia was pretty divided. They waited all night until Atlanta was counted. When Atlanta came through, guess who won? Same thing in North Carolina. They waited all night until Greensboro came through. Same thing in Ohio. They waited for Cincinnati and Cleveland. Same thing in Wisconsin. They waited on Milwaukee. I am saying, black folk, you got the power.
Right.
The power is in your vote. So
Absolutely.
I'm just happy to be with you, Charlene Turner Johnson. Thank you for doing what you do. Your vote is so sacred. So many people have died, and I understand young people don't get that. But the one thing young people do get is, if you're tired of police harassment, you better vote.
That's
if
right.
you are tired of ridiculous auto insurance rates, you better vote. And I'm telling you, young people did use their power. So it was a very, very successful election. 5.5 million Michigan residents went to the poll in November 2020. That's over 500,000 ever. And a lot of it had to do with some of the innovative ways we took advantage of our new power. We mailed out 4.5 million applications to encourage people to take advantage of absentee voting. We encouraged clerks all across the state to take advantage of drop boxes so people could drop their ballot off at their convenience. We encouraged people to know that they could register. Over 30,000 people registered and voted on election day. That's a first. So those are new voting rights. This is a magic moment. We've got the power, but we've got to keep talking.
So Hester, will we continue to keep those voting rights? I understand that there are these 39 bills that are before the governor.
That's right.
And what's going to happen with that? Will our voting rights, all those good things that the Secretary of State Department has done, will those things be eliminated? What should we do? What can we do? What do you say?
There are several things that, first of all, the governor has promised that every piece of voter suppression legislation that makes it to her desk is dead on arrival. Mm-hmm. So that's a reminder that elections matter. It does matter who the governor is.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we should know. Number two, Black folk, Highland Park residents, Detroiters, call your legislators, not just the legislator that represents you. Mm-hmm. Call somebody from Grand Rapids or call somebody from Traverse City. Talk to Republican, talk to white, talk to conservative legislators. Make sure they can feel the discomfort, the distress, and the anxiety that you live as a Detroit or a Highland Park resident. They need to hear from you. They're not used to that. And I am saying you don't have power if you don't use it. If you never make a phone call, if you never send an email, if you never do a letter to the editor, if you never organize a community meeting, you're living beneath your privilege. You are not using your power. So I'm saying turn up the pressure on the legislators, write letters to the editor. Public opinion ultimately impacts public policy. So those are things that we can do. One other thing that has grown out of the governor's commitment to veto is there's a movement, there's a petition initiative, and there are some mean-spirited conservatives that need to collect 340,000 signatures. So one of the things we're encouraging Highland Park and Detroit residents, decline to sign. Decline to sign. Don't sign a petition designed to put any initiative on the ballot that has anything to do with voting if you don't fully understand it. If Charlene Turner Johnson and trusted messengers, your pastor, your community leaders, if they don't say this is a petition you need to sign, you don't need to be manipulated into signing a petition that will ultimately work against your voting rights.
So decline to sign. That's something that we could get out in the community.
That's right.
Decline to sign.
Decline to sign.
Petition that you don't understand. And we can certainly contact our state representative here in Highland Park and Detroit, Helena Scott. She has been very active and involved with us through this Safeguard Democracy project. Actually, she was out at our very first event, which was held on 9/11 in honor of all of those people who sacrificed their lives. We did an event on 9/11 at Park Place, and Helena Scott was there talking about what she's doing to help us in terms of our voting rights. We also did a survey of over 300 people who attended that event, and the survey talked about democracy. What do you believe about democracy? What do you think we need to do in order to protect our democracy? And it was amazing that we found that a number of the teenagers did not understand the meaning of the word democracy. So as we look at our educational system, my sister's keeper is going into the school, George Washington Carver Academy, this year to teach practical life skills. And part of that will be skills in voting rights, skills in advocacy, skills in understanding about our legislator and our city government, et cetera. So what can we do in terms of the school system as it relates to democracy, civic education?
So I think that's a critical question to Charlene Turner Johnson. I think you should know a couple of things. We've got data that shows that there are over 350,000 young people between the ages of 18 and 35 in Southeast Michigan that are only voting at a rate of about 12 to 15%. So that's especially significant because what you should know is that if we have a sleeping giant, it is young people. And the work starts in high schools. It actually starts before then. But if you can prick the consciousness of a young people to recognize the work of many of us who come out of the 60s and the 70s, and we've been fighting for these voting rights. Prior to 1965, Black folk didn't have the right to vote.
Right.
You know, and if you put this thing in historical perspective, 1619 basically to 1865, that was nearly 250 years of abject slavery. 1865 to 1965, you had 100 years of Jim Crow segregation where Black folk didn't have the right to vote. So since 1965, we've only had 55 years of something else. We've only had about 55 years of something else. And for us to still be begging and pleading with our young people to use their power, take advantage of the right to vote, which many of us fought and died for. It's unfortunate, but it's just the way it is. I'm absolutely convinced, Charlene Turner Johnson, like you are convinced, that the cost of freedom is eternal vigilance. I think I'm planning now to go to my grave fighting. I'm going to stay in this fight because there's too many issues. We made a ton of progress, but there's still a ton of pain.
That's true.
I'd love to share with you a recent TED Talk I came across. These series of lectures, you can find them on different podcasts, but there's this socio-epidemiologist. He talks about inequality and anxiety. He talks about things that you can't always see, but you and I know are a reality. A part of the reason people don't use their power is because they don't feel worthy.
Right.
Part of the reason people don't use their power is because they're afraid. They don't walk in their light. a part of the depression and the anger and the sadness that African Americans, particularly young African American males, live is directly related to that anxiety. Black men know that they can be killed and no consequence.
Yeah.
They know that they can be killed by. So all of that has huge impacts on their behavior. You and I watch young Black men check out between the ages of 15 and around 25. They check out of the whole. They say, I'm not playing this game. I know I'm not respected. So it's hard to only talk to that person during the election cycle. If we don't promote, I love to hear what you said about going into the high schools. We got to keep touching these young people when we don't need them. We got to build relationships with young people when we don't need them. We got to make sure that programs like Low League, sporting opportunities, we got to make sure that camperships and scholarships and internships, all those, and fellowship with them, all that matters. So I'm suggesting to you, we do have, you can go to the Secretary of State's website. We're trying to register as many high schools. We've got these competitions, and they're coming in from across the state. I would love to see Detroit and Highland Park represented in some significant ways. And it's called My Vote Matters. It's a high school voter registration challenge. You can go to michigan.gov/MI Vote Matters. You can find this high school challenge. It's an excellent.
Michigan.gov. You said, say it again. Michigan.gov.
And we're going to put it, michigan.gov / MI short for Michigan. MI Vote Matters.
MI Vote Matters. Well, we're going to make sure we get that information out through My Brother's Keeper and My Sister's Keeper. You know, we're working with young people, and in particular, the young men in My Brother's Keeper.
You got it.
We attract them with basketball, Esther. We attract them with basketball. We have a tremendous basketball team here in Highland Park, My Brother's Keepers basketball team. They're doing all kinds of great things. But in addition to that, we do skills and drills outside of basketball related to all of these practical life skills, related to voting, related to rights, relating to, you know, what they need to do in order to participate. And I think the other group that we want to take a look at before we leave this discussion is the fact that there are so many of us who are single moms raising kids, and how difficult it is to get beyond the basic needs, and how difficult it is to participate in these other issues when we're struggling with basic needs, struggling with poverty, you know, struggling with all the stressors of trying to be single moms raising kids in this urban environment. And so we're trying to work with that group also to help empower young women in particular around these issues, because it's important. All votes matter. We want people to vote. We want people to be engaged. We want people to be advocates. But then we have to come alongside them and really help them with some of these other issues that they're dealing with, so that they can be involved, so they can be engaged, so they can get out to vote.
Yeah, I think that's especially significant. I like to highlight people like Jesse Jackson, for example, who also was born to a single mom. I know the success that children can experience regardless of their circumstances. Right. In fact, I think that success is probably more accurately measured based on the things we overcome versus we accomplish. Some people measure success by a nice car or a beautiful home. I measure success based on things you overcome. If you come from family dysfunction, if you come from poverty, if you come from depression, and you're able to get a high school diploma and you're able to go off to college, that's success every day. In fact, I talk to young people, I like to remind them that there's a difference between success and significance. Some people measure success, like I said, by things you acquire. But if you help people, if you get to a point in your life where you can make the difference in the lives of other people, if you learn the value of serving as a mentor, that's both success and significance. So I encourage single moms. I know how hard it is because my wife and I, we have 2 children. It was hard for us. You know, thank God both of them have graduated college, and that pushes us into a radically different chapter. But it was hard. But I've got nephews and nieces that are being raised by single moms. And there are a lot of uncles and cousins in your family that will get involved. So I keep the pressure on all of these kids in my family. I'm coming to get you every Friday or every other Friday. You're hanging out with me for the whole weekend. And I try and keep these young people in my family. So that in every program, there's a relationship between at-risk and intervention. And I see you looking. So I'm going to.
Yeah, I'm looking at my
producers
team over here telling me to kind of wind it up. But I did want to say before we end, certainly we want to thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Hester, for all that you're doing at the Secretary of State's office and for all that you have done over the course of your career with NAACP and the tremendous example that you share for other young men in the community that they can overcome obstacles and they can serve. And
I'm that guy.
Want to say too,
I'm that guy.
Say that DDON is comprised of many organizations in Detroit and Highland Park. We're representing Highland Park, but in Detroit, there are many organizations that are working with residents to help overcome some of the obstacles that we have as it relates to our getting to the poll and participating in our democracy. And so if you want to know more about that, you can certainly call me, Charlene Turner Johnson. Again, I serve as president of the organization called BASE, Building Assets to Strengthen Society. We are here for you. Our phone number is 313-252-1060. Again, that's 313-252-1060. We're on Facebook. We're on the internet. We have a website. We're located at Park Place, which is in Highland Park on Woodward, and it's been there since 2007 as an economic development hub, working with people who are trying to start businesses, entrepreneurs, working with nonprofits, building collaborations together to help people. We want to safeguard our democracy, and the way we can do that certainly is by working together to support one another, to serve one another, to help one another really participate effectively in our democracy. To organize is a way to get things done. Collaboration and unity is a way to get things done. And we certainly want to thank you, Hester. Again, you are just awesome.
You are awesome.
We are just so excited.
I know we're out of time. Let me just say this, Charlene Turner Johnson. You're always going to be the president of whatever you touch. I applaud your leadership savvy. Thank you for inviting me. Give Mr. DeAndre my regards and tell him to keep keeping on. And I'll just say this, voting matters.
Yes.
Who we elect, who we select, who we anoint, who we appoint, it does matter. You don't have power if you don't use it. Take your souls to the poll, exercise your right to vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And on Saturday, October 23rd at 1 o'clock at Faith Tabernacle Church, we are sponsoring a wonderful panel discussion on how city government works. So come out if you can, Saturday, October 23rd, Faith Tabernacle Church in Highland Park on Hamilton at the corner of Geneva. A panel discussion on how our city government works. Let us continue to work together to safeguard our democracy. We look forward to seeing you at the polls November the 2nd in Highland Park and in Detroit. We look forward to working with you as we continue to safeguard our democracy. If you didn't get one of these flyers at your door, at your home, call me 252-1060, BASE Incorporated. Thank you so much.